I just took a payout in the XFAs, got the call up, took half of my balance again, and probably started with 15K, and then quickly went on a bender of just daily loss limit. Oh, big day of 5 grand, daily loss limit, daily loss limit, daily loss limit. If I am wrong, let's say 2 days in a row, like if I really just am not on my game, the account is gone. The account's gone in realistically 3 lost trades.
What would you tell yourself if you could go back in time and right before that first trade was ever placed, not necessarily even in options, maybe just in futures, but at one point in that earlier stage of your career, what would be the best piece of advice you'd give to yourself?
I've also wasted $1,000 in 20 minutes by trying to do it twice and being wrong both times. Not recommended.
Do you ever lose the live account? I'm sure they can take it from you, but if you draw the live account down to 0 or lower, then can you go lower than 0 on the live account? What up, boys? Welcome back to the podcast. My name's Austin Silver. If you're new, welcome to the Day Trading Show. Today, I'm sitting down with Nick4ATick. Nick is a very popular trader in the Topstep community. He's been on their leaderboard for his live account multiple times. He's gotten huge payouts from his XFAs, and he's a really nice guy. He shares a lot of information. He is very open about the mistakes he made as a new trader, and he's open about the things he's still working on as a live funded trader with Topstep. So if you're looking to get funded as a futures trader, if you're looking to get paid out as a futures trader, take notes, shut down your trading platform, listen in closely because Nick shares a lot. Now, enjoy my conversation with Nick4ATick. Hey traders, I just want to give a shout out to today's sponsor. Topstep is a US-based futures funding firm. It's actually one of the oldest funding firms in the entire industry, not just in the US, in the entire world. If you're looking to get funded and trade futures, which is something I recommend you do, I recommend it strongly. Use the link down in the description. Topstep and I are going to do a lot of work together over the next few months, and I want to get you integrated into their ecosystem. Their challenges are cheap. The rules make sense. They're easy to pass, and you can get paid out in your XFA account, even though you're still trading in a simulated environment. If you don't know anything about Topstep, again, just use that link, go read all their FAQs, do a bunch of research, but everyone that we have sent from the CFD world over to the futures world, we've pushed them to Topstep and nobody is complaining. So if you're not already in a futures challenge, or maybe you're ready to diversify and trade with a different firm, use my link down in the description. That supports me and the channel, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for being a listener. Thank you to Topstep, and let's get back to the video. All right, traders, we are back. We've got a special guest in the building, Nick4ATick. What's up, brother?
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going well, man. It's good to have you here. I'm really looking forward to this. You are following some big shoes in the futures world over the last couple of weeks with my podcast, but I know you're going to fill them really well. So before we get into the future stuff and before we get into a little bit about your background, because I think out of the last couple of guests, no disrespect to you, Nick, you're the least followed on social media. So we got to intro you a little bit. But first, the most important question of the day, since you are in Texas, you said you've been in Texas for a decade. Do you eat chili with beans or no beans?
Ooh, okay. So that's actually a really funny question because this is like a good way to get banned in one of my like good friends like trading discords as a joke. We kind of ask people a weird way when someone, when one of those lurkers chimes in that doesn't really ever talk but has been in there for a while, when someone says something, we ask them the exact same question. So I am a fan of beans in my chili. But, I know that's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but for me, that's 100% a way to get banned out of the Discord if you do not put beans in your chili.
100. What is being in Texas? What is more common? The chili with the beans or without the beans?
Without the beans, apparently, but I've also learned there's people here that will die on that hill that it's if you don't put them in there, you're basically a sociopath, psycho, you're
communist, Russian spy, right?
Yeah.
right. Literally, dude, that is so funny. And the reason I know the whole beans in Texas thing is I've got a couple of guys that have come through our mentorship program, and that's always like I try to break the ice with them. And as you get to know the Texan people, they're very nice people. Texans are super nice and very traditional, which is cool. I had an Uber once I was in Amarillo, bro. So I was out there for a concert with my wife, and we get in the Uber, and the first thing the guy says to me, it's a dude driving a pickup truck with his dog sitting in the front seat, big dog. And he goes, "Just so y'all folks know, I'm a very God-loving man, but I have a gun in the car. Even though Uber tells me not to have a gun in the car, you wouldn't think that I'd be driving in Texas without a gun in the car." That's what he said to us, bro. I was like, yes, sir. For some reason, just talking to this guy from Texas, I find myself saying, yes, sir, yes, sir. Like I never talk like that, but I was just trying to be polite to this Texan man, being all like traditional and like he was being friendly too, cordial. you know?
It's so funny when you get out of, okay, at least probably Dallas, Austin, and Houston. And I'm talking like the main metropolitan areas of those three cities. When you get out of those bubbles, I forgot until recently how nice the average Texan in some of the, outskirts, smaller towns. I was in Denton actually. I'm getting a sleeve done. So my tattoo artist is actually up in Denton, and I'm just like getting lunch, before doing stuff, and people are just so polite. And it was one of those weird reminders that, like, oh yeah, once you get kind of out of that major city bubble, you forget, like, yes, people in the state are actually some of the most kind and generous individuals that exist. And I have just completely forgotten that living in the heart of Dallas like I do.
Yeah. And I think that that's true for probably a lot of states, right? Like we're outside the city, they're stigmatized, but then the outside the city folk are way different than the city folk. And I'm from
Exactly.
Jersey, and I know you said your family's from New York. So like, you know, us Northeast people, even outside the city, we're not the nicest, but the further south you come, the nicer that people seem to get sometimes, especially,
Exactly.
I'm in Florida. The people are kind of weird here, bro. We got like a lot of New York people, a lot of Northeast people here. So it's not really the South. It's like the Northeast South, where like Georgia, even Texas feels more Southern to me when I go there sometimes. And if you get around the right people, Florida's an interesting place, dude.
It is. And I granted, outside of going to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, like my grandparents were in Florida for a long time, but I've gotten to
Yeah,
spend more time on the Gulf side recently. And it's almost like a different planet from the other side, from the Atlantic side at times. It's kind of
dude,
made me laugh. And like, especially
100%.
I have a good buddy whose in-laws retired, on the Gulf in the Redneck Riviera type area. And it's a different planet to me at times. So
Dude,
it's super cool though.
100%. 100%. All right. So, first thing, Nick, let's talk about how you got into trading. I know on your Instagram, it says fun employed. So, let's talk about this. When did you first hear of trading, and was it futures trading?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I was one of those, I guess, kids that grew up around, in a weird way, investing. Like I was one where CNBC was on in the background a lot before school, because my dad was into not necessarily trading, but he was an investor. He would, buy and hold the typical way a lot of our parents probably have
My
in the
dad was the
past,
same
where,
way.
just
Mhm.
kind of invested in various companies, was listening to things that were interesting to his kids that could be, the next type of IPO thing, stuff like that. So I
Yeah,
had always kind of grew up around it. But as far as trading and, my own investments, that really didn't start till I kind of entered the workforce for me, with things like, employee stock purchase plans and restricted stock units and things like that a lot of employers, at least in the Fortune 500, will give to individuals working for them as an
sure.
incentive, as a, ancillary part of their compensation package. So that is how I kind of started that journey, was just basically getting shares as part of a job. And I'm talking a couple shares here and there from where I started my career, but an organization gave you the opportunity to actually purchase at a discount, called a, employee stock purchase plan. So I was able to start kind of cutting my teeth there. Quickly it grew, I would say, into some, like I think we all do at some time, which is getting to play around with options. Which, of course, you have the lovely days where I just quadrupled my money and I have no idea what I was doing, but something happened and it worked. So I can keep doing this. I can keep having that exponential growth. And then naturally, eventually that portfolio goes to zero, that options portfolio. If you have not experienced, I would say, blowing up an options account, regardless of size, you are, I would say, not a trader. You just haven't quite gotten there. So naturally, it evolved over time. I got more intelligent with my investing, but futures trading did not start for me realistically until 2021. I would say was when I started dabbling. I started paper trading in Thinkorswim, which is what I would use to trade options and things like that. Had never really understood how futures worked, what they really were, how even contracts on futures worked for options and things. So I started paper trading around there. And it wasn't until I got bit by the kind of, I would say, the initial round of tech layoff bubble that kind of happened in early 2023. I got bit by, unfortunately, those rounds of layoffs. And for me, that meant one thing, which is protect my capital as best I can. So naturally, I every day, like to trade a little bit, like to invest, buy and sell, whatever it may be, still through an options contract around here and there. But when that happened, I chose to make the decision where it's protect what I have until I am able to kind of get back in where I have steady cash flow and things like that. So
Smart.
naturally, around that time, I don't exactly know how I got exposed to prop trading. It probably was, random people in a trading Discord or something else that I had been exposed to where, somebody was talking about, Apex or something out there in the space where it's like, hey, you can trade 20 accounts for $20, whatever it is each. That it kind of, exposed me that there are those firms that not necessarily are like the old school ways where they would literally give you true money and manage risk and you can go trade for them, but this different way and doing it through futures. So down that funnel, I got exposed to Topstep, and I would say that was the one that actually kind of clicked with me, probably because the rules I think are just fair. It really is more like if you were trading your own money. Mm-hmm. So I got involved with them, and as I've kind of been going down this cycle of, what do I want to do next after, being laid off, it's been a great way to keep me busy, keep me focused on something while I've been looking for, a new job, new opportunity, and it's made me some money. So it's helped me pay my bills in that time.
All right, boys, I'm finally excited to share this information. The free futures course that I've been working on the last few months is finally ready for you. There's a link in the description to grab this course. Again, it is totally free. All I ask is that you leave me a review. I can see everybody that takes the free course. If you don't leave me a review, I'm gonna come kicking your door down and asking you for that review. Because in my opinion, and this is what I'm hearing from other people, you're gonna watch this and you're gonna say, why is he giving this information out for free? Well, I'm giving you the strategy that has helped me and other traders in our group get funded and get paid out as futures traders, because I don't believe strategy is the only component to getting paid out. It is an important factor in your overall success, but it is not the only factor. And I think that out of all the factors that lead into successful trading, strategy should be the one that you almost would say is the most simple. So I want to give you a simple strategy that's proven to work not just for me, but for other traders. And then I want to help you push yourself to get funded and get paid out. And that's what we're going to do with this free course. So check it out. There's a link down there. Just make sure if you watch it, you leave me a review, because I'll come asking you for it if you don't. I really appreciate all the feedback, all the attention you guys always give me. I'm just here to help you guys make more money as much as I can. So enjoy the course, and now enjoy the rest of the video. That's an awesome story. It's one of the more different stories that I've had on the podcast, where you're actively looking to try to find another job, even though the trading is going well, and you are, I mean, it sounds like you're in a pretty good position even from the layoff, bro, because of the stuff you put in place and the stuff you had invested. So are you looking to get and keep working while you keep trading? Like, what's the next step for you? Not to skip all the way ahead, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I haven't quite made that decision yet. I really only started, I would say, taking this type of trading or taking it seriously to the point where it can really supplement my entire paycheck and then some, like it is now, I would say until about September. And it was a moment during this interview cycle, as I would call it, where I am still looking, where without name dropping any organizations, somebody in the Big Four type world basically strung me along for such a long period of time in the last 6 months that it almost like lit a fire, being like, I'm done with corporate. I can't do this anymore. And I can make a significant more amount of capital doing what I've been doing. And so it almost, like I said, it accelerated my focus in the way where it's like, even as I was interviewing, even as I was continuing to look for a different opportunity, I was trading a little bit kind of, smaller size, more consistently, but just in a way where it wasn't, I would say, supplementing income. It was more like, this is great secondary income. And then a flip switch, right when I basically was, like I said, strung along for a period of time by a very large organization, that really kind of made me say, I can do this. I can put the same level of effort and, mentality that I have brought into the workplace and actually basically put it somewhere else, focus that energy into something a little bit different, something that probably is scary. I mean, who wants to rely on purely, taking everything out in this, especially in this space where there's a lot of people that you trade, but there's a lot of, I would say, other things that are paying their bills, and it's not them clicking buttons on the screen. That's actually how they're making their money. And I won't go too into the weeds there.
You're being real nice about that. Yeah, you're being real nice about that. No, it's okay. We don't need to.
Yeah, most people are doing it. So to purely kind of take the opposite of that, which is now I have to 100% rely on how I am executing every single trade, because that is how, I am able to eat. And I'm at a point now where I say I don't know exactly what I want to do because I'm good at this, but I'm at the same time, my my wife is pregnant. We are expecting our first child
Oh,
in
nice.
the
Congrats, bro.
as we head towards the latter half of this year.
Love that.
And thank you, by the way. We're very excited. But when you have, I would say, those other responsibilities, if this was just me and I was in my early 20s and this happened, I'd say, screw it, I'm going to roll the dice. But taking all these other, I would say, things into account, it changes that perspective. And I think a lot of, especially when you've operated in a successful 9 to 5 where you've created, a good lifestyle, a good amount of investment in things just from, working a typical job, which is not for everybody. But I was on the cusp, I would say, of making a very good livelihood for myself and my family in a very stable environment. To just take that away and go into, you have to eat what you kill every day in this market, it's just a hard mentality to kind of climb
Total flip,
over
bro.
and want to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, it's a complete flip of literally 180 degrees, right?
Yep.
So, no, it's great information. I think a lot of the listeners can relate to what you're saying. And I got a lot of questions off it. Are you having a boy or a girl? Do you want to say?
It's a little girl.
Oh, nice, dude. Congrats. That's going to be so awesome. So why the switch from options to futures? That was one part in the story I didn't get.
Yeah, there wasn't any reason, I would say. There was something about the true day trading mindset of, I felt like I have more control. I like
Sure.
that I can get, it just,
Well, there's
how
so many
liquid.
variables in options.
Yeah,
right?
there's so much things and you don't even understand, like, even as I was learning and doing this, like, you kind of understand the Greeks, you kind of understand, gamma and all this other, but you don't, because you're still getting pushed around by institutions. And in a
100%.
weird way, I just didn't like, I didn't know exactly how I could calculate what, my entries, my stops, like all this, and you could still miss that by a ton versus
100%.
futures. I learned very quickly how liquid and simplistic it is, where it's like, I am buying at X and I'm looking to sell at Y. Just a super simple, like, I'm going for 10 points. The next 10 points in the S&P is what I'm looking for. And I know exactly what I want to risk. Everything's pure defined versus like, I'm spending $1,000 on this contract and, well, I can get out for a $200 loss. Like, it's just very, very much, I would say, the ease of more traditional, like, day trading mindset, where it's like you can buy a stock at X and sell it at Y versus an option contract. Like we said, it just is a little more complicated for me. So I just enjoyed that type of, movement. And in a weird way, the depth of market. So Adam, like, trading off of that, something clicked for me. It made perfect sense, like, to kind of, I would say, execute with that in a chart, just to keep things very simple, but to kind of just have an understanding of how price may move and how orders are sitting on it. It came super natural to me in a way of being successful at it and entering trades, exiting trades, knowing how to kind of navigate that. So it really just became easier for me to do.
That was going to be my next question. How did you learn? Like, who were you learning from? Because now you've mentioned depth of market. I'm sure you're looking at some market profile stuff. It sounds similar to RIPS a little bit. So I'm curious, like, did you read anything, watch anything? Did you just feel this out naturally and figure that out on your own? That would be pretty impressive in such a short period of time.
Well, the good news is there's a ton of great information out there in the space. There's a lot of bad information and bad
100%.
teachers, but there are a few good ones. And there are a few
100%.
individuals that don't necessarily aren't necessarily building it for, let's say, financial purposes, more so just to help other people because they were on their journey at some point. So I was fortunate and lucky enough to be part of, kind of before I would say trading Discord has really blew up in the last, couple of years, where everybody and their mother has one. It seems like a few individuals that I didn't necessarily know, but had followed on FinTwit for a long time, had, people I respected too, that I knew weren't just like pumping out and shouting levels from the top of a hill and just seeing who wants to, believe them or not. Someone that actually was talking more microstructure, macro structure, not only for trading, but also for the economy itself, like someone that actually knew what they were talking about. And then a few people, kind of growing up around them, just getting exposure to traders that have been doing this longer than I have. And a lot of those guys spoke very much around that type of market structure, volume profile, price action, volume by price, delta by price type trading, where some of those just simplistic, I would say, trading concepts made a lot of sense to me more than just others do. I think that's another thing too. Everyone should probably find a way of learning or a way of understanding the way price action kind of works in whatever way makes the most sense to you. It makes the most sense to me in some sort of volume profile structure, like a DOM, like, volume by price, things like that.
Yeah.
But I was able to kind of surround myself by guys who have built indicators, guys that have extensive knowledge of charting platforms like Sierra, like Motive Wave, and that, whether or not you were, let's say, buying anything from their company or whatever it is, or going out of their way to actually teach you something, create true content that actually, really dives into the concepts behind any sort of signal or any sort of indicator that's out there in the space. And it could be something as simple as, market generated information where, well, if it spits out, hey, this level, which is, let's just call it a value area high. Well, what does that actually mean? And they've built extensive knowledge share and, e-learning almost around those type of concepts. So I was fortunate to kind of surround myself by those people who were just willing to offer their time and answer questions and help me, kind of trial by fire, like most of us do. I was just one of those people where things clicked, and I'm a firm believer in day trading. Day trading is not for everybody. There are time periods that make sense for different people. I have gotten very successful at operating on a, let's call it a 1 minute to 1 hour time frame. That's not for everybody, and probably most people should not be trading on that type of time frame. You should be long only. You should be looking to swing on a 4-hour time frame. Just other types of market structure that is out there is a great way for you to not get hurt in this game. It's one thing I learned, and it's from trading friends and stuff where just some things just don't click for them, or even me regurgitating concepts that I've learned that have helped me be successful. You can see it just doesn't always click for everyone. What I'm talking about, how I'm describing it, how I'm describing price action. Some things just work better for certain, I would say, learning styles more likely is probably the reason behind it. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what worked for me. I just had found the right type of people, that were out there and actually trying to help you learn, not just trying to, let's say, sell you a course and send you on your way. Like, no, really making sure like, hey, this is what's worked for me. It may not work for you, but I'm going to teach you what I know because that's how I trade.
What's up, traders? Austin from the future. Really quick, I want to just thank our sponsor, Top One Trader. Now, a lot of you have transitioned from CFDs to futures, but I want to suggest that you don't do one or the other, you do both. And if you're looking for a reliable CFD firm, Top One Trader is your go-to. Now, they're based in the US, but more important than that, they actually are still paying traders out. If you go to their Instagram, you'll see last month they paid out over $100,000 to their profitable traders. So if you want to get funded with a CFD firm that is reliable and still paying traders out, and a firm that actually answers their customer support messages very quickly. And I have firsthand experience with that because I have a lot of people in our community that tell me how it's going with Top One, with any of our sponsors. And everyone is still very happy with the work coming from Top One. Just use the link here in the description to this video. I can save you a good little discount. You can help the channel here by supporting and using our affiliate link. And then you could be trading futures and CFDs at the same time, which I think is a no-brainer. So check out Top One. Thank you for being the sponsor. We appreciate Top One very much. And let's get back to the video.
Do you believe that there's an unlimited amount of profitable ways to trade? Do you believe in that theory that trading strategy isn't the make or break factor in your success? There's other factors that will either make or break you longer term? Or do you believe strategy is very important?
I think knowing the type of environment you can be successful in too, like the type of price action you like to trade. For example, the day we are having today is not for me. Is just sideways, kind of grinding up. That is the most typical Nick hits a daily loss limit out of pure frustration, forcing trades type of day. Where if we're just grinding up a 0.5% to 0.75%, I just have a tendency to try to catch a down move first, because it doesn't tend to allow you a dip to buy in some cases. I very much am a rotational trader, is what I would call it. So
that was what I was going to ask you next.
No bias realistically, but
okay.
I'm looking for anywhere for the NASDAQ, let's say 20 to 30 points with 3 contracts is typically what I'm looking for in any given trade. And I have no problem cutting my winners at 6 to 10 points, getting out if I'm not getting the move. And it's been, let's say, 5 minutes I've been sitting in it. if I haven't kind of really gotten a good move in my favor, I tend to exit and say I'll reevaluate. And
Sure.
a lot that type of mentality and short, I would say short twitch of a finger to get out has saved me more than it probably would have made me if I just let, those few trades that probably turned into a 200-point trade. If I just kind of let it roll, I would say it probably could have blown up in my face more likely than not than it would have actually resulted in a home run type trade.
Well, from seeing you trade on Topstep TV, when I've tuned in and seen you hanging out with the guys and just hearing the way you talk, I could tell that you are not a greedy trader. You're not going for big R. You're snagging and bagging, similar to me. Like, we're always going to leave money on the table. So
Yep.
I would say, if you've already found that that is one contributing aspect to your success, the fact that you are taking profits, some would call it aggressively, would you say that you're just as good as cutting losses, or do you think you struggle with cutting losses? Where do you kind of sit on that side of the trade?
I would say it depends. There are days like today with price action where as it grinds up, that's where I may be tentative to cut a loser for no reason. It's these type of days. It's always on the short side that I'm afraid to cut a loser, which is just stupid because at the end
But
of the day,
why? Because you think it'll suck lower, it can just whoop.
I feel in a weird way when we get into some of these, when I get into certain trades, and it always depends on my account. My live account, I tend to be very, when it's truly trading on exchange and things like that, and I can't necessarily reset it. I don't like hitting daily loss limits. I've never lifted mine despite how large my, I would say liquidity in that account has kind of ballooned to. I've never wanted to change my risk parameters at this time. It's just my style. If I tend to, let's say risk $1,000 on a trade and I miss 3 times in a row, I should be done. That's really it. But where I have gotten in trouble in the past is let's say adding a contract. Okay, now I'm at 4 and it's continuing to kind of slowly just drift a little bit against me, but not ripping my face off in the opposite direction where you kind of know you're wrong. It's those slow grinds where it's like, okay, well, I'm only down 7-8 points. Let me get it to 5. And then I can see if I can finally catch this. And then that hold my beer candle hits you and I'm out. And I just got ripped for 30 points against my entry when I should have just cut it, reevaluated, waited for that candle to happen, and then re-entered. And it's those type of moves that I'm trying to get better at, not necessarily seeing, but knowing my own, I would say, psyche behind it.
Yeah, like
which is like, I know what what my ape brain is kind of wanting to do here, which is just like, double down and see if I can and just kind of hit it, which is never a good recipe for trading. You really need to stick to the system that's made you successful. And for me, that's trading 3 contracts. That's taking my 20 points and reevaluating. And for me, a lot of the time I've been able to do that a few times throughout a day. And now that $1,200 trade for 20 points with 3 contracts has netted me $4,000 on the day, has netted me 3,600, whatever it is. And that has led to a lot of my success, is being able to hit 2 of those a day sometimes, and then cutting losers early is, like I said, something I'm trying to get better about.
I mean, that is like the one thing that I work with guys on all the time. Like, it is probably the most common issue. It's probably the only reason I've done well this year is because I've cut the losses so fast. So it's something that's really hard, but I think as you get good at it, you build momentum with it. And it's like, oh, good, get me out quicker. But we trade a little bit differently. So I can understand why, it sounds like we make a joke in our group chat about when you're in a short, like I was today, and it's not turning yet for you, you start smoking that hope. It's the dope for traders is what we call it. Because you're like, I just hope if it just goes back to break even, I'll get out of it. And we had one of our guys today, it went back to break even. I said, hey, pay attention, it's back to break even. He didn't do anything. Within 4 minutes, turned around, stopped them out on the short. So I know exactly what you're saying. See it every day. Let's just go on your trading really quick for another second. So you're talking about time frame. Where are you trading pre-market? Are you only going to trade after open? How do you view the open? Let's just talk about like the time that you spend at the desk, because I think the listeners are hearing, all right, this guy's throwing some decent sized contracts, throwing 3-4 minis. What is he doing in terms of frequency and time spent at the desk?
Yeah, I try realistically. The morning session is my time frame. Whether that's a little bit pre-market, I've been trying to get better about not even. I like to watch the news, but you get into this habit where, hey, your setup's up. The news is going on, CPI, whatever it may be. I really don't trade it, but sometimes after the initial move, a minute or 2 later, you're kind of itching for it. But I think it's still important to be observing what is going on as these releases happen. So I typically, will load up my setup anywhere between 5 a.m. Central to 6:30 is typically when I wake up, have some coffee, kind of start my morning routine with the dogs, just get an idea of what the Euro session kind of did, or what those traders who refuse to ever short anything, by the way, if you've ever noticed that they're the
I
reason your
have noticed.
401k looks like the way it does,
It's
is
interesting.
because of the Euro traders. It just tends to
Yeah.
bid off of those levels. And there is some logic there. If anyone wants to look that up, there is some method to that madness. But for me, that's typically when I would start kind of my pre-market. I typically do weekend planning, like on Sundays. I will understand like kind of, hey, where are the areas? Yeah, I'm trading the Nasdaq most of the time, and then I use options levels with SPX to kind of guide my decision making a little bit intraday and on a weekly time frame. So I like to have at least areas I'm interested in potentially, interacting with, and most of those are areas of interest on a 4-hour chart and volume profile, let's say from the previous session, previous week, to kind of create those levels. Most of it is market generated information. I'm not just pulling, random levels like people do on Twitter, and you think there's some kind of magician with it. No, everything is readily available and is very simple when you really actually get educated on what these people are trying to tell you. So I do that. I do a little bit of market prep. I try to see where we're trading in the given morning. And then for me, I really am trying to get better about not placing a trade until open, and then until at least 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes after.
We are in the same boat on that, bro.
I've made a lot of money in opens, but I've also had my fastest, double, like 2 stop outs. And now I've got, hey, you basically have $800 of drawdown, let's say in a Topstep live account to work with. And you're 5 minutes into the day. It is just so stupid and you may have been right ultimately, but you're getting whipsawed by institutions, moving the markets in the first 10 minutes. So I've been trying to get better about doing that, but more often than not, my executions typically are between 8:30 and then shortly thereafter the Euro close. By lunchtime, I really don't love trading because we tend to drift higher, which just evolves back into the type of price action that I don't love trading. I do trade power hour, but I would say I am not a great power hour trader. For some reason, even when we get these crazy options driven moves to the upside, let's say, as we head towards close, and on days I have tried to long those, I just never seem to be able to catch the move. So it's just like, it could be me. But I just think it's the same thing. It's a more illiquid, institution driven time period during power hour at times. So it's just not what I love to trade. It's a great way to just get beaten up a little bit. So if you are going to do
the day in a bad taste in your mouth.
Exactly. And it's the same reason I try to make sure my Fridays end early too. It's who wants to hit a daily loss limit on a Friday and ruin your weekend, and you have to stew in it until Globex open. And then you're itching to trade Globex open on Sunday night.
And then it just spills over. Yep.
Yeah. And I've had those cycles where it's like a 3-day, let's call it
bender.
Where it's like you hit a daily loss limit Thursday, you tried to quickly get into the open on Friday, and then you got into Sunday Globex and got whipsawed as news, headlines were coming out over the weekend. So great, you hit a daily loss limit, you just lost $9,000 in Topstep, which is just a waste of money, and you weren't even trading intelligently. It's like you're just seeing red at that point. It's like it's the tilt trade, but I describe it as seeing red.
You want to trade more than the wanting to trade overpowers the knowledge and the experience that you've already worked hard to gain. It's just like the degenerate comes out of you. It's for all of us. I think one of the things that I've been really hot on is like people, I think as new traders, think that perfection is the goal. Like you just reach this level of trading where you're like, yeah, I don't lose money. I know how to do this every day. I know exactly where it's going. And that's just not the case for anybody. I really believe that. But if you focus instead on the process of just getting better every day, learning every day, that's what keeps you alive. That's what then gets you smarter for the next week. And then you don't end up making the mistakes that you were just talking about. Let's get into some of the Topstep stuff, because I think a lot of the audience here, especially over the last, I'd say couple of months with all the CFD drama, they've been interested in getting into futures. A lot of my audience has now switched over, and some guys are even getting funded and paid out already. Let's talk about your journey with Topstep. And then can you take us through from the beginning? You kind of already touched on that a little bit. You were talking about Apex, and then you found Topstep. You liked their rules. Did you get funded quickly? How long did it take you to pass your first combine? And then you mentioned already a live account. Are you talking live with their actual capital, or are you speaking about XFA? So kind of give us the overview of that, please.
Yeah. So like I said, I tried, I mean, I would say at this point, I probably have tried every prop that's out there in the space. And I'm a firm believer, you know, you need to find whatever firm, you feel most comfortable actually getting payouts, because that's the name of the game.
Sure.
And the reason I liked about, I guess, Topstep, or what really drew me to them, because I used them for a little bit, then I went away, came back kind of when I went on this, I would say, mentality shift of like, no, I can do this, but I need the right firm to kind of help me gain capital to do it. So um, when I kind of put my foot back on the pedal, I would say it was like September of last year. And you bought three 150K combines. I passed them. I don't remember how long, but probably took me a second try. If I'm probably remembering. I don't want to say I was like perfect and got it,
Sure.
but
Well, you even
I
mentioned
mean,
already you're hitting max daily loss. So you're trading aggressively enough in the combine that you're hitting max daily loss and you'll fail a couple.
exactly. And that's a
Yeah.
weird way. Like that's somewhat my style. And it goes back to just how I
It's
would
my
trade
style
my
too.
personal. Yeah, I would trade my personal account not aggressively, but I would trade a little more size with what I'm comfortable doing and what I'm comfortable winning and losing on a certain day. So
Sure.
Top Step gives you, I would say, for the value of a combine, pretty fair drawdown rules, where
Yeah.
it is like trading real capital in a way where you're not getting taxed on a a un an unbanked trade in a
Right.
way where that goes
Agreed.
away if basically it penalizes you for leaving runners, which is a lot of the time something I like to do after I've, let's say, gotten 20 or 30 points. I may take one off and let it ride a little bit. But if that
Sure.
trade comes all the way back, those firms could penalize you for letting it
Yep.
go back to break even at that point. So I always felt they were the most fair. I also felt like in terms of education and content that they've created to help traders, they were the most, I would say, forward in that front, where it's like, this is not the prop game that's truly in the market to make money on people failing. It's like, no, no, no. That is obviously in a weird way. It's a part of the business model, but they have done everything in their power to make you successful as a trader, whether that is the flexibility of their rules, their flexibility on how easy it is to kind of get a payout, as well as just putting content out there to teach you how to trade, and creating what they've done with Topstep TV now, that is truly putting you in touch with people that are actively doing this, and coaches
It's
and,
true.
and individuals that are actually successful at this. So it's almost like
Mhm.
taking that barrier to entry of that knowledge share that I would say is difficult to find sometimes from the right people. So I've got exposure to them, like I said, past the combine, and kind of went on a tear in October with Topstep, and took some pretty aggressive payouts out of the XFAs, because I'm now trading three. Um, Ended up getting called to a live account. Ended up quickly blowing my live account because I took half out of. I just took a payout in the XFAs, got the call up, took half of my balance again, and probably started with 15K, and then quickly went on a bender of just daily loss limit. Oh, big day of $5,000, daily loss limit, daily loss limit, daily loss limit. Just not trading the way that had gotten me there in the first place. Was more so me saying, I took some big checks. I've gotten pretty good at this. I know what I'm doing. I can't lose. And when we had, I think I described this last time I was on Topstep TV, but at the time, like, there was a ton of volatility. It was a trader's market. The VIX was high last October. And it was almost like, if you sat in a trade long enough, you couldn't lose, type of thing. So I had gotten in some bad habits as we drifted towards the inevitable bull run that we've been on heading into November. And when you start fading some of those pops that had worked all the time in October, and selling some
It
of the
steamrolled, bro. It
exactly
steamrolled. Yeah.
selling the rips no longer worked in November, if you guys
No.
remember kind of what we bounced off of. So naturally, my tendency to fade large rips intraday got blown up in my face real quick, and I needed to quickly lose this bias that I was on. So it took me probably another month before I was back XFA funded with Topstep in early January, and I have been in the same live account since end of
Nice.
January, actively trading in it, and continuing to throw up big numbers, but still trading my system since then.
Sure. So let's talk about, I got a couple of questions because I've passed 4 XFAs. I've lost 2 of them. I have 2 of them right now. And I haven't been called up to a live account, but I got a shout out from the risk manager guy on Topstep TV a few weeks ago. And he was like, yeah, if Austin builds this account balance, we're going to put him in a live account. So for the viewers, what is the benefit of being in a live account with Topstep? versus an XFA?
That's a good question. I guess in a weird way, it'll teach you how to kind of execute like a real trader. You don't get these, like, I would say it's a harder trader's environment in a way. The fills, it seems everything just seems a little bit faster. I don't know how to describe it, but it's different. And
Okay,
it's
so
not
what's the pro
necessarily
to it though? What's the pro? Because that sounds like a con.
I mean, the pro is, I would say in a weird way, it's somewhat bragging rights.
I knew you were
You're
going to say that
trading,
because that's what everybody says. You could
but
say you're a
but
top,
it's true.
but it's true. It's
You
true.
are in going back to, like, an old school prop firm in Chicago or New York. Like, you are truly at one. This is real capital. These are being routed on exchange, and it's no different than if you were trading a personal account.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're not trading in sim, and sim is for babies. I think some of the other traders at Topstep who are funded and on the top 10 with me at times feel this way, where I don't really care about your triple 15K days in the XFAs.
Right,
you're not trading real capital. You're trading in a sim. I would love to see you throw 15 lots around in a live environment and reproduce that. To this day, nobody's been able to do it for more than a day or two before
they get smoked.
They get smoked and they get an angry gravestone from Mick from risk management, and they're gone eventually. You see, if you watch, or see their leaderboard, like on their live ones, like you see consistent traders, and you see the one hit wonders in a way where you're gambling. You ain't trading, bro. I don't really care how you kind of slice it and dice it. You're not building, I would say, repetition type habits that will make you successful in this long term.
You're also kind of shitting on your reputation with Topstep, right? Like, you're kind of pissing them off in a sense where they're going to be like, I don't want to give this guy a live account. He's blown 40 combines to get here. This isn't right. Right.
Yep. But I do respect Topstep too for not doing what other firms that I had traded through in the past, which is create new rules that will eliminate the amount of, let's say, XFA accounts or payouts that you can get in a given time, where it penalizes you for doing that type of behavior. But they have been one of the good ones that, as terrible as it is sometimes that people choose to treat a account that can build capital and actually get you real cash, like, you're going to the casino. And I'm guilty of it myself. I have done that before. I have done it at times. I've done it recently where you're tilted coming off a failed XFA, and you want to get right back in and try to build the account, like obviously build a balance like I have in my live account so that I can trade the way I want to. But starting from a zero balance is difficult no matter, what time you really start doing it. So when
you trade the live account, are you funding it with XFAs always, like Rips is, where he's got combines passed, XFAs ready to go? Because like that is how you can do it, right? When you pass XFAs, if you have a live account, you can add that to your live account.
Correct. So that was how they initially got funded. And then I think same thing. Sometimes when you're hot in this game, it makes sense to just keep pressing in and keep going. And I think early February, I had another set of 3 that were banked that rolled back into my live, but then I went on a bit of a cold streak. March was a tougher month for me. Dropped my balance down a little bit, still took payouts because, like I said, this is how I'm still paying the bills. So I'm one of those people.
So you're paying yourself every month or every 2 weeks?
I have to pay myself. I paid myself in April, probably the lowest amount I've paid myself all year. But since then, I haven't had an XFA move into my live balance yet. In the last few weeks, I have doubled my live account balance by just trading well, which is really the name of the game here. I'm glad in a weird way my mindset has shifted, which is not to rely on a bucket dump of an XFA or 3 XFAs into my live to keep my live afloat. It has been purely trading in that true,
live account
sim environment
and growing that.
And growing it, which is the name of the game, which is exactly what you'd be doing with a personal account. I think that's where traders can fall into that trap where even if you're trading live, if you're relying on XFAs to continue to kind of crutch your balance up, you're going to fail. The second you take your next payout, you're going to start back on a, downward trajectory. It's important to continue to, and I would say even with only having the one account, this is where it goes back to, there's no shame in taking that $200 winner and walking away for the day than it is hitting a daily loss limit. Like there's been a lot of times where I've kind of shifted my mindset, which is, I wish I would have walked away up $300 versus continuing to press it on a day like today.
Yeah.
And, being down $2,000 suddenly.
Yep. We have something we talk about, the hierarchy of day trading profits. Big win, small win, scratch, small loss, big loss. You do everything you can to avoid the big loss. You take the small loss over the big loss, but you take the scratch over a loss any day. And I think
Exactly.
that's because I'm in the same boat as you. After looking back on it over a period of time, you're like, damn, if I would have just taken the $200. So that's what I did to get my first payout is I hit $200 daily targets, hit my 5 days within 2 weeks, and I took a payout. Now, I've had a couple of guys take the payout and then they end up taking some losses on the account and they draw it down and then they lose the XFA after just getting one payout. So I'm sure you recommend don't take the payout unless you need it because you want to build the buffer on the XFA before you get called up to a live account, correct?
Correct. I don't think I've taken an XFA payout that had an account balance of less than like 10 grand on
Really?
150s. Also keep in mind, people, I am doing this in a way where this has got to keep my lights on day in and day out. So I have no problem grinding it for a couple weeks, a
And then
month,
taking a bigger payout.
and then taking a
You're
payout.
taking out 10
The
grand,
last
20
few
grand.
times though, every time Mick has grabbed my balance from Topstep of the XFAs, whenever it's gotten over 10K, he tends to just pull it into the live and
pull
say,
it
you're
into the
done.
live.
You're
So
done
does
here.
that add to your live balance? Like walk me through that. So like, let's say your live balance is 10 grand and you get an XFA up 10 grand, he'll bump you and you're at 20 in the live account.
Yeah, whatever balance you would like to move in theory. Most people would recommend taking a payout, and so would I.
Yeah.
When you get an XFA move, pay yourself. You deserve it. And also
Sure.
it's going to take a few days for that balance to be added, just like it would when you're moving money to a brokerage. It takes
Sure.
you can take a couple days to get the balance in there. So pay yourself, do something, make the money real, because otherwise you're going to be in the situation where you moved all of it and you're waiting and you're stewing and you're going to try to pass pass combines as quickly as you can. And you're going to take whatever money you didn't just pay yourself, you're probably going to give it back trying to pass combines as quickly as you can. So there's another $1,000, let's say, if it took you, 6 combines to finally pass 3 of them. So that's, $450 a pop for 350K accounts. Sometimes it's good to pay yourself, go to a nice dinner, do something, get away from the markets when you've been called up to a live account and they're moving the balance over. Just take those days is one thing I wish I had done.
Great advice.
More. Walk away from the market for a couple days. Use it as like a good blessing, even though you can still trade your live account at that time. Use it as an excuse to get away from screens. It's 100% what I'd recommend.
It's great advice. Do you ever lose the live account? I'm sure they can take it from you, but if you draw the live account down to 0 or lower than, can you go lower than 0 on the live account?
No, I think the risks, I think they've talked about people in live too, trading news and having a few $1,000s of the slippage in a live account. So I don't know.
And then
if you're then in a draw to Topstep,
right, and then
in
you owe them
theory for
money.
future payouts, I would imagine so. I don't know anyone who's actually done that, but I know it's happened.
All right, I'll have to ask Michael next time I talk to him.
Yeah, that's a good question for him.
That's
if they operate in a draw environment for future payouts or something.
I think that they do, but we'll have to ask to see. So what would be your advice to passing combines and moving them to XFA as fast as possible? Would you recommend using the trade copying system in TopstepX? Do you prefer other platforms like NinjaTrader or Sierra or anything like that? What would be your advice to the newer guys who haven't passed a combine yet and are just itching for that first XFA?
I think, if you don't have a platform of choice, one that you're really comfortable with, like if there's something you haven't truly learned and mastered as a platform, I think it's a good time to get exposure to TopstepX. And this is coming from someone that exclusively uses MotiveWave, and it's going to take a lot for Topstep to get me to exclusively use TopstepX. And it's a great platform, and I've passed combines on it. It's one of those things. Like it's like you talk to people that use Sierra Chart, like for days in and days out. Like that's their platform. They're never going to move. It's like talking to car guys and trying to get them to switch from a Silverado to an F-150. You just good luck fighting that battle. I'm in that same team where it's like I've built and put so much screen time into MotiveWave. I love it. I love how it executes. I love to use, how I built things in it. So outside of executing trades, I don't see myself moving off of it. But what Topstep has built, I don't think people understand this. As it continues to evolve and improve, like with things like the tilt, which we joke in Discords, I want to use that in a way of scraping it for my own type of indicator for myself of, a contrarian indicator for what sim traders are doing, because Not saying anybody, but you're some of the worst retail traders that exists,
It's
unfortunately,
true.
and the data's there. So
It's
it's a
true.
great fading indicator in a way. So having access to seeing where people are positioned, utilizing Topstep, their sim environment, which whether it's an XFA trader or a combine trader, it's not their live traders, which some of them you may not want to fade. For example, you may not want to fade me. You probably don't want to fade Dakota. You probably don't want to fade Rips and some of the other guys. But there's sim traders, there's aspects there. But what they've built, if you're a trading view user, you're going to love the ability to just pick up exactly where, you've kind of learned how to chart from. So as that continues to evolve, as they kind of bring in third-party indicator and, pine coding, maybe for your own indicators into
Sure.
TopstepX, I would hope in the future. I think it's a great time to get exposure, understand that platform, and get comfortable with it just because it's web-based, which there's only one other true web-based platform out there. And for lack of a better word, it's garbage. And that's what I learned how to trade futures on, and I will never go back to the other web-based platform. But, would use whatever makes you comfortable. There's
Sure.
no question. I would not recommend anyone switches. If you built stuff and you were very comfortable on Ninja or Sierra or Motive Wave or even Tradeovate, God forbid, I don't recommend switching. I think it's a learning curve sometimes, and then that can set you back in a way. So do what makes you comfortable. But I love what they're doing with TopstepX. And if I was not so in the weeds with my own platform, it's what I would be using.
About trade copiers. That's good information about platforms. Now, what about copiers? Are you running a copier with the platform you use, or are you against copiers like Michael is?
No, I love using copiers, but it's the same mindset. So I'm so used to trading, really focusing on my live account, which has also been a thing I've been trying to change versus I firmly believe it's hard enough in this game to be right once in a day with a trade. And then when you are constantly like shifting back and forth between platforms, prop accounts, different prop logins, and all these things and different platforms, like it's hard enough to continue to replicate, even if you were green in one account and you flip to the others. So I have been trying more time to focus on just my live account, but I use a native copier for my XFAs that is built into Motive Wave. And I think a lot of people do is, use the ones that are actually built on your platform. Granted, every once in a while they have issues. So it is a risk in a way. It also just depends on your style of trading. If you believe very much in your single bias on that given day, whatever it may be, and you feel like you can be right and you're willing to take 3x the risk in theory, because it's actually funny when you start to build those accounts up, like you're trading, your one live account with Topstep and your 3 XFAs. Let's say I have 10K in each of those. Well, now if you hit a daily loss limit in each of those 4 accounts, that's 12 grand. That's a lot of money. So it almost is in a way where it's like, it really depends on the way you like to trade and your style and your risk, I would say, for your own sanity, because it may not, you may be losing 3 grand, but you're doing it across 4. So for me, I have always treated that like, no, that's 12 grand that could be in my pocket right now, just by hitting a daily loss limit in each of those accounts in one single day. So it's taught me to be a little more cautious at times. It doesn't mean I don't trade like that, and doesn't mean I haven't lost 12 grand recently doing exactly that. What I'm saying, I struggle not doing at times, but it's one of those things, like you just have to understand that type of risk and the way you want to trade. There's nothing wrong with trading different time frames, different markets, different products for each of those XFAs, or different times of day. Even you could use one during Globex and you're going to trade, the Nikkei, or you want to use one for more commodity driven versus indices. So, I mean, there's other ways to do it. I just, I'm very comfortable trading the indices. So I typically copy trade because, I can't go long and short one. It doesn't really work that way when you're trading the indices. They all tend to move in parallel. So a little harder.
Sometimes the Dow goes and does its own thing, and it leaves NASDAQ and ES on its own. Why do you like NASDAQ over ES?
When I started trading futures, I exclusively traded ES. It just was more simple to me, round numbers, the movement. It's a great for people to learn on. Trading micros on ES when you do know nothing about futures is what I would recommend to everybody. Yeah. It's how you should learn how the indices kind of move, because you can back look with SPX on things and, use options and things like that just to kind of guide your decision making. I would recommend ES. It just trades more simplistically, the same way sometimes crude does. It can just trade very technically at times, versus NQ tends to, throw you in a van without a seatbelt and, have an Uber driver in San Francisco taking you around town. It's just, it can just beat you up the whole time. And you don't necessarily get that whipsaw. Like, I've never had so many situations where I get stopped out of an NQ trade when I was not wrong whatsoever. In my bias, in my entry, it just happened to whipsaw me 15 points for no reason.
And you're out.
And I'm out. And then the move happens seconds later. And that's very normal. But yes, we might have moved a 1.5, or even if I did a 3-point stop, which is pretty normal. I'm not going to get tagged, but NQ moved 20 points for no reason. So I think it's just a safer product to learn futures on.
I agree. I'm a simple guy and I like ES because the numbers are easier. NASDAQ has more volatility for sure, but ES is just easier to calculate in my head. Let me go back. I got a couple more questions for you. Really good answers, Nick. I really appreciate all this info. And I know the audience likes this too, because we just have so many people that want to be in a similar position to you. When you look at your size at the 3 to 4 contracts now with the live account, what would be a balance? And again, this is always personal. I'm not asking for a recommendation or anything like that, but just from your perspective, what kind of balance do you want to have in the account to trade the way you trade and put on that kind of size?
Yeah. So I know Topstep, like, let's say when you get a new XFA, you're allowed to trade 3 contracts. I do it. I don't recommend doing that for most people. It just fits my system in a way of the way I trade, the way I like to risk, which is anywhere between $600 and $1,200 a trade, depending on the location, time of day, other factors that I use. But I do that with the mentality knowing if I am wrong, let's say 2 days in a row, like if I really just am not on my game, the account is gone. The account's gone in realistically 3 lost trades. It's pretty hard when you've been trading like that to, okay, I lost 3 trades in a row. Now I'm down, let's call it $3,000. And I've got $1,500 of drawdown left. It's kind of hard to build that out again without, let's say, just YOLOing 3 contracts again and hoping you hit one for 50 points, God forbid.
Right.
You're digging yourself into that big of a hole. There's nothing wrong with starting with 1 contract, 2 contract, and building that buffer to $1,000, $2,000. And then if you want to size up, or you're in a winning trade and you want to add, on a pullback, go for it. Sure. But it's very hard. I am one of those people where sometimes with XFAs going from a 0 balance, if I don't hit my first trade out of the gate, it sometimes can waterfall for me.
It's hard.
Hence why, same thing. I've just been trying to I'm learning these things about myself in real time. My own mentality as I trade, that mental game that Jared Tendler talks about, which I do love that book, by the way. That's one of the few audio books that I just kind of randomly will replay as I'm on a run or just doing something around the house. But you learn more about your own psyche in this game. The psychology behind this is still fascinating to me. And I would love to really dive in deeper with some, psychologists on that, because it's very, very interesting stuff. But I have just learned doing that is not necessarily the most successful way to launch a combine, to launch an XFA. At the same time, I am guilty of throwing 10 lots on a new combine and trying to pass it in 2 trades. And I've done that before, and I've hit that before.
I've also blown a couple doing that.
Exactly. I've also wasted $1,000 in 20 minutes by trying to do it twice and being wrong both times. Not recommended. That's the game, though.
It is.
I understand that with props and being successful at props, there is a give and take with you have to spend a little money to make money. And I factor that into my cost of doing business because I operate myself almost like this is an entity, a business.
Yeah. Look at the bottom line
of prop trading, where it's
cost
like, hey,
versus revenue.
I know
right.
These, whatever 3 XFAs it took me, I know my cost was X. I need to pull out at least Y to feel like this was a profitable, environment. And I've been good about doing that. So even if it cost me $2,000 to get 3 additional funded XFAs, I know 1 payout, I'm good. And I know I can do that. So I'm comfortable with that type of risk. That is not for everybody. That is not for everybody. If you're trying to do this full time, once again, I would never recommend doing that. I think it's prop trading is great to, help finance your down payment for your house, help to, buy your future fiance an engagement ring, things like that. I never believe you want to be in the situation I am in where this is how you are paying your bills. And I am not sugarcoating that at all, people.
It's hard.
This is truly how I am doing that right now. This is purely based on what buttons I am pressing intraday factor into me making a mortgage payment every month.
Yeah. 100%. It's well said. Do you advocate most people to just trade part-time? Do you say, hey, figure out how to do this before work, after work, swing trade? Is that what you would advocate then?
Yeah, 100%. Figure out a time frame that works for you to be successful. First of all, in priority number one, which is your 9 to 5, since that's going to keep you,
Keep the lights on. And keep you less stressed.
It's going to give you the cash flow to even trade on the side, to give
Yeah.
you the freedom to being like, well, shit, I blew up an account. I'm not homeless because of that. Like I'm going to be fine. Like without that 9 to 5, that takes that away. So
For sure.
I'm sorry, what was the question? Now I'm totally blanking.
No, you're good. I was just saying, would you advocate for someone to trade part-time more so than the full-time dream that everybody on social media sells? And your answer is exactly what I thought it would be, which is that, yes, you probably could figure out a way, which is what I advocate as well. You could figure out a way to make some money doing this part-time and do that for a little bit. Even you, honestly, even with your experience, you're still relatively new to trading. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I lost money for 4 years, bro. From 2015 to 2019, trading Forex, just lost money, like a lot of money, like over $50,000. So I had to go through it the hard way. And all I did, bro, when I was doing that was work on the weekends. I used to be a DJ for weddings and bar mitzvahs. And that's what I did. It paid me well enough that I could do that on the weekends and just blow it all during the week, basically, as a gambler in the Forex market. So, but it took me a long time. It was lessons from the market, really. All right. So last question for you, Nick. And I really appreciate the hour, bro. I know you got other stuff going on. I know you got some power hour to finish up here. But what would you tell yourself if you could go back in time and right before that first trade was ever placed, not necessarily even in options, maybe just in futures, but at one point in that earlier stage of your career, what would be the best piece of advice you'd give to yourself?
When you see profit, take profit. And when you've had a big day, there's no shame in taking the win, walking away, and reevaluating the market state. Past, I would say, I can't remember the full expression, but whatever, like past behavior doesn't mean future behavior kind of thing.
Yes.
Where what's
past
happening
performance isn't indicative of the future returns.
Yes. So even when you're, the hot hand fallacy thing. So like when you've been on a winning streak, whatever it is, and you've been, executing a specific bias or way in the market, it doesn't mean that's going to continue. I would say this game likes to kick you in the teeth a little bit at times. So when you've had a big day, I am trying to get better about doing this too. Take the win, take a payout, whatever it is, come back a day or two later, whatever it is, and reevaluate where you were thinking about entering, engaging with the market. Just have a different perspective or a cleaner, almost like a beginner's mind coming back into your view of where price action is at that given time, or where the economy is, or whatever your time frame may be. Whether that's you're swing trading micros for 4 hours, or you execute on a 1 minute to 4 hour time frame like I do.
Right.
Sometimes it makes sense to kind of sit in it. And I say that because I have had some very big days, and then, and this is going back to the personal account days, but some very big trades, and coming back and thinking I can continue to do this every single day, or find that next home run trade a day or two later. And then you gave it back, at least half your gains doing that, versus like, you know what, let me wait for the conditions to be right.
Yeah. Great advice for the younger version of Nick. Now, as we go forward, what can we look forward to from you, bro? I know you said maybe setting up some streaming, maybe setting up some more content. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's still early stages, but I've gotten a lot of people reaching out to me on social media and just other places, asking would I be interested, or would I start doing that, or they've enjoyed my perspective on the markets or just trading. I think I'm, in a weird way, I'm a shit poster who is actually good at trading. Like I make memes, I make people laugh. That's a bit of me. But I'm probably going to start some live streaming here and there. Just for fun. There's really going to be nothing behind it outside of, hey, I'm going to be sitting probably live on YouTube, wherever it is, randomly, whatever it may be. But that's kind of the plan for now. But I'm not a big social media guy. I'm pretty much an introvert more often than not, any given day. So, if you like kind of learning from me, I'm happy to share what's made me successful in this. That's pretty much what you'd get out of it. But that's kind of the plan for now. I'm planning on kind of launching and starting some of that. I will still be very much involved, it seems like, with Topstep for the foreseeable future on TopstepTV. So if you've been tuning in and or you have it and you're interested in kind of some of the things I've been saying now, feel free to tune in.
What day
but
are
yeah,
you on there regularly? Thursdays?
there's no plan regularly. I'm pretty
Okay.
much, that's the joy of being unemployed, man.
You're
Sometimes
flex, bro. You're flex.
they
They
just
got
give
me
me a
locked in
call
on
being like,
Tuesday
hey, can you hop
afternoons.
in?
I've done enough of them, I guess, with them now where they got me locked in on Tuesdays until July, at least right now. So I'm
Oh,
Tuesdays.
that's
So
nice.
maybe we'll do one together. Maybe they'll have us
We
both on
should.
together. That'd be fun. Yeah, I would love to, because I did one with
Yeah,
Rips already, or maybe two with Rips, and I really enjoyed trading with him. And I like learning from everybody, bro. I mean, I never want to be the smartest guy in the room. So I would love to see you stream. And even we have a live streaming platform, and I'd love to have you come on there and talk to our audience and just show them a little
sure.
bit about what you do. Because I think it's very important that everyone, especially my audience, knows this, especially the people that listen 56 minutes through. They all are in the same boat as me. Like, we never want to be the smartest guy in the room. We want to learn from everybody. And I think that's like the mindset of a successful trader. You can always learn. If you're not adapting, you're going to die. So you got to learn new information. And who better to learn it from than people that are doing well, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Awesome. Nick, thank you very much, bro. This has been great. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to make sure everybody has links to not just Top Step stuff, but also your stuff as well down in the description. I think we'll put a pin in it for today. And then maybe I actually have a couple other people in Texas who want to do some in-person podcasts. So if I get out there, I might have to pull your ear again and sit down and get a little deeper. I'd love to get more into the psychology of it too, because you mentioned Jared Tendler, but I'm sure there's other people that have impacted you on that side too. So Jared's a homeboy of the show. He's been on a couple of times. Everybody loves Jared. So I'd love to chop it up with you on even just that, not even the technical stuff, because this is all psychological, especially once you get to the level that you're at, where you're trying to keep up on the leaderboard, trying to see those payouts come through. So it is a lot of psychology. Well, I want to hear about the sleep routine, Nick. I want to hear what's he eating the night before, to pull the big payouts. So we'll get into that in part 2. But for now, thank
Sounds
you, Nick.
good.
Appreciate
Yeah,
you, brother.
thank you.
Listeners, thank you guys for staying all the way through. We appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you guys in the next one.